Hello and welcome back to the Ash Edwards podcast. Today I'm joined by Ethan Harris. Ethan, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very excited to have you on. How would you best describe what you do?
So, I am an online coach, and for those that don't really know what that is, it's essentially like personal training online. It's a bit more in depth. So, for a personal trainer, you'd get, an hour with me, in person essentially. But with the online coaching services, it goes into a lot more depth. So, you get weekly check-ins, sometimes daily check-ins, basically access to me all day, every day. I always say to clients, like, I'm on my phone all the time. The only time I'm not is when I'm asleep or training. So you'd get everything you'd ever need from a personal trainer, plus more. We like to educate. I say we because obviously we'll probably go into that, but we like to educate clients as well. So we do host webinars, seminars for our clients, knowing that full well, a lot of people want to be online coaches like myself. So yeah, essentially, short story, online coach.
You are the head coach at the JBFbrigade, which is Josh Bridgman's coaching company. That's correct.
Yeah, JBFbrigade, yeah. So I have known Josh for about 4 or 5 years. I was originally a client of his way back in 2017. From starting off with him, I was like quite a chubby kid, and I've always had aspirations to be an educator, a teacher, a coach of some sort. And I remember within the first couple of months going, in 2 years' time, I'm going to be under his wing. Just kind of almost as a joke at the time, but it did kind of happen. Then lockdown came in, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise. From that period, from 2017 to 2020, whenever it was that lockdown happened, I'd obviously gone through college, I'd gone through university, I'd done everything I needed to do, which isn't really a lot to be an online coach, but I did like the extra curricular things for my own kind of moral status. Josh messaged me because he only actually, well, at the time, lived about 45 minutes an hour away from me over lockdown. Was like, look, I've got a home gym. You're more than welcome to come down, even if it's for one session. So drove all the way down, got in, we bonded really well. And then he was like, do you want to come down tomorrow? And then came back the next day. We just kept training for majority of the lockdown. And then from then onwards, he was talking through business, going through what his coaching looks like, because I was a coach myself before JBF Brigade. I literally had like 2 or 3 clients. And yeah, we got on really well. We became friends more than anything. It was more of like, we were more than just kind of like client coach. It was just friends. And I remember going up to him one day and I was like, look, if you want to level up your business, I am the person for that. I was like, you know what I'm capable of. You can see what I can do, and you only know like my trajectory and what it's going to be. He messaged me that night and was like, I really appreciate you reaching out. Let's do it. So from then onwards, obviously it took time to get into it, and we waited till lockdown ended, but I became JBF Brigade coach. Wasn't a head coach straight away. It was just a case of trying to get my name up as well. For me to go in with like 1,000 followers and 5 clients wasn't really worthwhile. But over time, I proved myself, got kind of social proof, built up my education to the point where I'm sure he'd admit it as well. Sometimes I even tell Josh what's right and wrong, and we'll educate him along the way too. And he was like, look, just run the game pretty much. He obviously, being a busier person, can't take on tons and tons of people because he's got 1MR, he's got JBF, he's got loads of other things in his life too. And he was like, do you want to do it? Do you want to take it on and be the head coach? So essentially that is what I am now. Has it changed from not being head coach? Not really. It's just a cooler name. I can tell people I'm head coach. The services stay the same. I'm just better than I was when I originally started. And JBF Brigade is essentially just the online coaching service. So we go into detail. Like I said, we offer a lot of education. We will obviously provide support for your goals, whether that is to be the next Mr. Olympia, whether that is to just be look good naked, whatever it may be. We will do that, and that is just part of the online service. Yeah.
So you tell Josh that you're the man to level up his business. Would you say you yourself have leveled it up?
100%. Yeah. We've this year specifically have made some drastic changes. And like the improvements in services, the retention in itself, like I think retention says a lot, because I could go and say, I've just made, for example, just random numbers. I've just made £5,000 this month. I've just got on 20 clients, but they can just leave next month. Whereas what we're seeing at the minute is people are coming on, people are realizing, the service is good, people are staying, the retention is changing. to be in good retention, and people are also coming in as well. So I think the feedback has been very good from clients that have had to leave either because they can't afford it, simply because of, living costs are increasing, but also the clients that are with us and have been with, before all these kind of changes. And I think, like, even asking Josh as well, we all are our harshest critics, and I'll always go, can I be better? Can I be doing this? Can I be doing that? And it's always positive feedback. It's always, you're speaking so much better, or you're educating so much better, whatever it may be. Whereas from day one, it was a case of, you have a lot of things to work on. And it's not so much now. It's now, how come we're almost, like I say, he'd probably agree with too, but we are on similar levels in terms of our coaching services now. It's just a case of, he's a bigger person, he has more experience as well. If we were to go back to back and we both be the same age and both been doing it for the same amount of time, I'd probably even say I'd beat Josh in online coaching in regards to services. But I definitely bring a lot, and I'm very confident in the fact that I have leveled up the service too.
And so obviously, from first starting out with Josh when you had 5 clients to now where you're running the game for him, basically, what would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself or about the way that you go about your business since then?
I think being more than just a professional, at the end of the day, we are people as well. So I used to come on and be really boring and go, hi guys, I've now got spaces open, you can join me now. It's, very monotonous and very boring, and it was just trying to be as professional as possible and putting in that edge of, I am who I am, and if you like it, you're probably going to come to me for that. I'm very much aware that I'm not the biggest person in the world, so I have to be good at something else. So if I can bring humor, if I can bring personality to someone and just be able to empathize, I think that's definitely the biggest thing. For anyone out there, you can be the biggest person in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've got, big muscles don't mean big brains. So you have to entice someone. If you've not got like loads of muscle, you have to entice them elsewhere. So yeah, probably just being able to empathize with people and also show off who you are.
Obviously, you're quite experienced now, but just one thing I noticed from that is that you mentioned your size. You're not the biggest person yet. Maybe you're not as where you want to be, or naturally you just, that's just how it works sometimes. Have you ever experienced that kind of thing of, oh, well, I haven't got the biggest frame, I'm not exactly perfect condition that I want to be? Do you kind of doubt yourself and kind of have that imposter syndrome? How do I convey to my clients that I'm the right person for them?
Every single day. I still have it now. I still have doubts and think, unfortunately with online, we are trusting people to like our services, and it could be that I wake up tomorrow and everyone just leave. So it is very scary, but also very rewarding. And, it is, like I say, I'm my harshest critique. So I'm always thinking, wow, my arms look small, so maybe someone's not going to come to me. I've physically had people come to me and go, I'm not going to go with you because this guy's bigger, but yet people that are bigger than me come to me. So it's one of those things. Imposter syndrome is very much there, but the way I look at it now is that is part of the pressure. And as C-Bum says, pressure is the privilege, is a privilege. So I think if I'm feeling anxious about my services and what can go wrong, it's probably because I'm doing something right.
So yeah, is it kind of like you've taught yourself to keep that mindset of just to kind of keep going, and if there is that pressure, if there is that people that doubting you, you're in a position to be doubted. Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, 100%. I'm always going to be doubted. That, as with anyone, there's always going to be people that don't like you. There's going to be people that absolutely love you, and it's just taking on the people that love you, making them understand why they love you, and then word of mouth is a wonderful thing. Whether it's their friends, whether it's a post they make, more people will come in. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to like you, but you need to step back and go, right, am I making a living right now? Yes. So why do I care if people don't like me? Because I've got enough people to like me to make a living.
What would you say is the hardest part about your job?
Probably the imposter syndrome, and knowing that it could go at any point in time. You could be Mr. Olympia. There's still no reason why people can just leave you. It is a very insecure position to be in, as much as it is great. And I always tell people I'm living the dream. Like, it can go at any point in time. It only takes someone to say something about me that might not be true, and then everyone get word of that, and then it go downhill. Or someone say to Josh and potentially make up a rumor or something like that, and Josh go, I don't agree with that, you're not a coach anymore. As much as me and Josh are close, it only does take certain people to just gang up and say something, or whether that was he's small, he doesn't do your services any good. it can change at any point in time. So I definitely think it is that imposter syndrome. Otherwise, to be honest, like it's amazing. Like in my eyes, I don't really work a day. Like right now, it's just living the dream, like I said.
If you could go back to that stage where you're first starting out and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Be more confident in yourself. Yeah, be more confident in yourself. Love yourself, because as the saying goes, if you don't love yourself, how is anyone else going to do it? And that goes in regards to, like, if you don't like yourself, like the way you look, then a lot of other people aren't going to either. Whereas if you do, you've already got that confidence. Confidence is a great thing, and you can, as I'm sure you're aware, you can sell a lot of fake things by being confident. I could tell you this fat burner is going to work and you can be in a surplus, but is it really? Probably not. So yeah, be confident and love yourself, basically.
I promise I will, because this podcast, I want to reiterate that this is about you, and I will step away from Josh Bridgman, but I just want to ask one more question, or maybe two, about himself. Obviously, he's just finished his season. How far do you think he can go in the sport? Obviously, he's just has his debut pro season. How far do you think?
I think he could go all the way. I do honestly think he could be men's physique Mr. Olympia, and he's very aware that he doesn't have the world's best genetics, but those that know him and those that have been with him and spoken to him know how hard of a worker he is, and that he will do anything to get where he wants. And it only goes to show, consistently year after year, he's putting on 3, 4, 5, 6 kilos of muscle consistently, to the point where you'd look at someone else and they get to that point where they are heavily muscled and it doesn't happen. And regardless of what he's got to do, he will do it. And that is what will take him all the way. I think the only way he wouldn't do it and wouldn't go top 3 Olympia in 2, 3, 4 years time would simply be because there are people better with better genetics. And unfortunately, you can outwork genetics, but if they're working just as hard as well, then unfortunately you're not. But you're not going to win. But I honestly do think that he will be on the Olympia stage in 2, 3 years time, and he'll be knocking on that door in 2 years after that.
What do you think it is about Josh that has allowed him to go so far in the sport? Because as you said, he hasn't got the best genetics. He isn't set up to have the most perfect career in it. But what is it about him that's making him drive through all the other competitors?
He is incredibly humble. Like I can give him compliments and he'll just be like, no, like just stop. Like he doesn't take compliments very well. He obviously takes them in, but I think that helps him a lot because he is as harsh as critique as we all are. Whereas a lot of people would get to a certain stage and be like, oh my God, I've got over 50,000 followers. I've got people saying I'm massive now. I'm going to stop here because I'm happy. He is never happy. He's obviously happy, but like in regards to how he is in business, he is an absolute mastermind in business, and he will always push himself to be better. I think it's very apparent for him that it's not for the money, because if it was for the money, he would have stopped ages ago. He's constantly coming up with new ideas, messaging me, I want to do this, this and this. I want to be better and better. And that is what really pushes him, because he doesn't care about what other people think. He is incredibly humble, and that will always make him, go further than where he is.
Now, aside from Josh, and I'm very grateful that you've shared all that. You're close to the guy. But I want to get on to you. What is your current goal with your physique at the moment? I've noticed that you've been on a cut, but can you explain what the intentions are behind that, and where you're at the moment?
So, current intentions. Well, when I started the diet, it was about 12, 13 weeks ago. The goal was just to kind of cut down. I let myself go a bit too much. I do love food. I'm a big foodie. But unfortunately, that makes a lot of things harder. Growing muscle, doing anything makes it, it's a lot harder with fat. So the original goal was to just look a bit better, feel healthier. And the leaner you get, the more of a following you get, the more people kind of respect you, unfortunately. It's amazing, but it's also not the fact that you have to be lean for people to like you. And the goal was just to get lean as quick as possible. But as I've got leaner, I've almost got the want to get leaner and leaner. So the original 10 weeks has turned into 12 weeks. And then 12 weeks is probably going to turn into 15 weeks. But I am definitely going to stop by that 15-week mark, so about 2 or 3 weeks, just to get leaner, get responsive to food, be able to push up and gain muscle and have that kind of rebound effect that everyone has. also, you know, help my business as well. People, I'm at the point now where, you know, like I said, I was never genetically gifted. People are now coming to me and going, how have you grown so much? And it's just a case of I've done what people don't, and I spent time bulking and getting fat, getting a lot of hate for being fat, but now they're not giving me hate anymore. So it, you know, it's quite nice. There has been a slight change in regards to the end goal. I'm not going to be competing, not anytime soon anyway, just because I am, you know, I'm realistic in the fact that I'm not very big. But I kind of want to make the most of it and book in a photo shoot and just be able to, you know, prove to myself what I've done and that I'm able to do it, and also have something to look back on. I don't intend on being super lean for the next 2 years realistically, so I want to have something to look back on. So in 2 years' time, when I am fat and wanting to lean down again, I can go, this is what I want to beat, instead of just getting to a certain weight and going, cool, I've hit 75 now, let's go back up. I want to be able to remember that.
I found an Instagram post of yours from 2019 saying that in 2 to 3 years' time you wanted to compete. Obviously, you know, that hasn't happened. You've just explained yourself. What if you get in 2 years' time, you put on more size, you cut down again, and you come to that realization of, no, I need another off season? Is it something you're really worried about, or if you don't ever compete, is it not the end of the world because your coaching, the coaching side of your career is, you know, is going to be taking off?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one, and it's been one I've been thinking about quite a bit. The stage will always be there, and I'm well aware of that. I've been in between minds and thinking, well, I'm not going to win, and there's people better than me. But I think if I always think that, I'm never going to step on stage. So I think the main driver for me being able to compete, or when I do compete, is simply from a business standpoint. I want to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. You know, I want to be able to prep clients and get them on stage. But part of me feels bad saying, do this, do that, do hours of cardio, and you know, you'll look good for it. And then if they go, well, you haven't stepped on stage, it's kind of a bit of a step back for me. So that is another reason why I'm dieting now, because I'm going in the trenches as such. For them. So, you know, I've got clients dieting just as hard as I am, and I can go, look, I'm with you every step of the way. Or maybe next year I can say, look, I've been there, this is me doing it, and etc. If I don't step on stage, I'm completely fine with that. The goal obviously was to step on stage, as you said, 2 or 3 years ago. I've kept delaying it. It was next year, and I've kind of just reduced that stress and gone, it's not going to be next year, it's going to be in a couple of years' time, if at all. And if it doesn't happen, it's fine. If it does, awesome.
I mean, don't tell me this if you don't want to. I know client confidentiality is important. You don't have to specify it to anyone, but was that a real anecdote? Has someone turned around to you and said, you're not doing it, why should I, when they're on prep?
I've never actually had someone say that. I do have a fear of someone saying that. I think as my clientele is getting more and more refined and I'm able to push people harder and harder, it will potentially come round. It's more a case of, I have been fairly good with kind of walking the walk and talking the talk so far, so I've been quite well off in it. But I just want to be able to cover all aspects of it. So if someone does say it and they are prepping down, I can go, look, I completely understand. And like it's completely relative. Someone can be eating 3,000 calories and be leaner than me and feel it just as much as I am eating 1,600 calories. But the same principles is there. You know, the same principles are there. You know, I've still done it. Or doing it, so they can too.
And so obviously you're cutting at the moment. What do you think is the most important thing in managing a prep? Obviously you deal with them all the time. If you could put it down to one factor, and I know that might be difficult, what would you put it down to?
So I think the first thing with dieting or harsh diets and preps is you need to be aware of what you're in for. It's not just a case of physically demanding, it's mentally demanding, it's financially demanding. You know, as you get further and further, all of these things kind of creep in. You need to be aware of kind of what you're getting yourself into. You also have to want to do it. I've been in multiple diets before and I've just cut them short because I'm thinking, I'm hungry, you know, and it's a case of this time around, I've actually wanted to diet. I am hungry, but I want to do it. And, you know, I'm also hungry for the results, just as hungry for the results. I just think you need to be able to want to do it, know what you're getting yourself into. And then ultimately, in regards to like longevity of things, ideally need to have a coach and that coach spend time with you and know what's going to happen. You have some guys that can afford to diet down in 8, 10, 12 weeks. You have some guys more specific on the natural side where they have to diet for 18, 25, sometimes even 30 weeks because, you know, in regards to losing muscle, you don't really want that. So if you've not got anabolics and, you know, you're not assisted, you have to take a slower approach to that.
I mentioned this in my last podcast, and I'm sure it's a story at the moment that you're familiar with, but I'm assuming you know who the Big Kent is.
He was a client of Josh's, yeah.
Right, okay. So yeah, he's just stopped prepping, hasn't he, for this season, due to like external factors of stress. When you're coaching these people, when you're trying to manage them through prep, are you aware of external factors of stress, and are you trying to make them aware that they need to keep themselves as calm as possible, really?
Yeah, I think it's all down to coaching. I think any good coach should be aware of as much as possible. All feedback should be given. You know, if you want to get the best results, you need to understand everything, and stress is a killer of a physique, of anything realistically. So it's a case of the more questions you ask. Some clients will find it very annoying that you're asking, you know, 10, 20 questions every check-in, and you want them to fill in every single aspect of sleep and even things like what time did you go to the toilet, how is it looking, and things like that. You know, it's all the questions that you can be asking when it's needed. So those that want to take it all the way, you need to understand what is going on in their life, because, you know, if someone was to just tell me and go, I was really stressed this week, I could just go, well, I'm assuming it's because of the diet, get on with it. But, you know, for his instance or someone else's instance, it could be a death of a family member and things like that. And it's understanding how brutal that is to your stress. If it was something like, oh, I hurt my foot and I can't do cardio today, some people will get really stressed out about that. But it's a case of understanding, you know, is it going to be a long stress? Is there ways you can go about it, or is it worthwhile just not suffering for something? You know, if it's only going to kill your look, you might as well just call it there.
I wanted to move things on to anabolics. You are on anabolics, is that correct?
I am, yeah. Almost 2 years to the day.
So what was the thing that initially made you make that decision? I'm sure there's a lot of factors involved, but can you sum up why you eventually came to that decision?
I always knew I was going to do it. I always knew I wanted to do it. I actually went to my mum and dad at about 17 and was like, I'm going to do anabolics. You know, I was adamant I was going to do it then, but I didn't. And I spoke to them and I was like, look, I want to do this. They were like, that's completely fine. Whatever you do, decide to do. But are you aware of the consequences? Do you know what it's going to cost? Are you able to stay healthy with things? Do you know what you're going to be doing, etc.? Like all the valid questions. I took time. I did my own education for 2 or 3 years. I came back to them 3 years later, got a coach as well. With all these questions, I said, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is how I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to get blood work. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Why I'm doing it from a business perspective, obviously my goals aren't achievable naturally. And they were like, cool, you know, you've answered all our questions. Go ahead and do it. So I basically just wanted to, you know, it wasn't just for them, but it was for myself, understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing, the pros and the cons, more so the cons. You know, everyone knows you're probably going to grow a bit of muscle with it, you know, depending on how long you do it. But there's a lot of cons that people aren't aware of.
Apart from the potential muscle gain that you've had, have you noticed any of those cons yourself?
I have. I very much go down the kind of safer use, and I need to make it aware that it's not safe, but you can be somewhat safer about it. Same as if you go out and drink on the weekends, you know, it's not necessarily safe, but you can do less, you can drink less. I'm quite lucky in the fact that I've experienced a few things early on, so I'm able to go, look, it's not worth it. So I actually, in my first year, I started to lactate. So basically my prolactin was really high. I could you know, squeeze my nipple and a liquid would come out of it. And you know, it is what it is. I experienced that. I went through blood work. I changed everything around. Second time we went around that so that wouldn't happen. But in order to do that, I had to push other compounds up. Now that did put my blood work at a bit more of a risk, and it also left me feeling, it's hard to explain unless you do it, but you feel unhealthy. You know, you're walking around and you feel like, God, like anything could happen. I did feel like, you know, it wasn't worth it for me. I felt very unhealthy. Blood work came back and there was lots of reds. And unfortunately, when that happens, it just means that the health supplements you're taking become more of an abundance and you have to pay more money. And at the dosage I was doing, compared to some people, it's not a lot, but I was doing almost a gram of gear within my second, third blast. And the progress I got out of it just wasn't worth it for me, which was when I realized that competing is not really on the cards right now. The only way I can get to be the same size as some of the guys that are my age, and will be stepping on stage with me, is to push things much further than I need to. And well, not that I need to, than I want to. And for me, it was a case of, like you said before, my business is good, life is good, and I think it takes for those things to happen for you to take a step back and go, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm obviously still on anabolics, but I do take that safer approach, and I'm very good. I'm actually just had bloods done this morning, and I'm even healthier than when I was on anabolics, before I was on anabolics. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to live just as long, because I'm fully aware of that, but at the moment it's all in control, and I'm taking that kind of safer approach.
I think the standard thing for people to say when on anabolics at the moment and they're online is, I'm going to do it safe, I'm going to get my blood work done. I'm not saying that you didn't have the intention of actually acting on that blood work, but I'm sure a lot of them get the blood work, they see the red flags, and they don't act on it. They don't do what you did. They don't try and make sure that, say what they were going to do. Do you come across that a lot? Have you come across it before?
So I get a lot of guys that don't or won't come to me for coaching. They'll sign up, we'll have a call, and then suddenly it comes to how much they're using, and they can be using a lot, and I can go, you can do half this and you can still get the same results. Unfortunately, when you're getting good results from something, for me to then say do less is hard for them to take on board. But what I can say with confidence is that everyone that has come to me and done less, from being with me, is that they have felt much healthier and gained just as much, on less. Also, a lot of guys that just won't do blood work, and if they don't do blood work, I don't want to work with them, because I know it's not my fault if they don't want to do blood work, but morally I'm thinking that I don't want to be with you to make yourself even worse. But yeah, it's like, it is tough, and it does get rid of business sometimes when people want, when I tell people to do less and I'm not willing to work with them. But it in the long run, for me morally, and for them in the long run too, it's going to help.
Those guys that don't want to half their dosage, they don't want to bring down to a healthier state, because they can see the results, and then they can feel the results, and they feel amazing, they feel like the best they've ever have. How much does that play in a part of someone not being able to come off stuff like that? And is it quite similar to addiction, when you're feeling so good because of them, they don't want to remove that part of their life?
Yeah, so you do, well, not everyone, but you do get addicted to feeling good, feeling superhuman. The same way, if you were to do other drugs, you do feel good on them, and you don't really want to stop. Even for myself, I am doing lower dosage, but the thought of potentially dropping down even more is like, oh, I might lose some muscle, I might do this, I might do that. Realistically, none of that is going to happen. But it does affect you quite mentally. After a certain amount of time, when you do less, you do feel a little bit smaller, and that is natural. Your hormones will change the same way a female can feel quite fat when she's menstruating on her period. Your hormones change, you hold more water, and you feel kind of like flatter, and the ability to train really isn't there. But it's, all I can say is it's well worth it. I think your health is obviously priceless. You can't really put a number on that. And what people go off of is, they'll say, like, they'll relate to people that are not as old as others, and they'll go, oh, well, he's okay, this guy in my gym is okay. And I'm thinking, well, the guy in your gym's 28, compared to, like, look at the people that are older, and look at some of the studies. Like, a crazy thing is they've said about tren, and people that are doing tren, is that within 3 to 4 days of being on tren, the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's is there already. And it makes you think, like, you might go muscle off tren, but without looking into it, if I was to just say take some tren, you'd probably do it, and you'd be like, well, Ethan said to do it. But unfortunately, you listen to the people that are bigger than you, and there is a lot of people that are bigger than us. So it's, there's definitely a lot of psychological factors. And all I can say is, listen to someone that you think is smart. Hopefully that person you think is smart is someone that is actually smart, and not just telling you to do drugs. I say, if people are telling you to do drugs and do more, it's probably the wrong person to listen to.
Are you quite glad that you had that stage of feeling a bit unhealthy, feeling, because like obviously when you had those bad blood works, you felt quite unhealthy and you decided you need to take it back down again. You're glad you had that feeling of feeling unhealthy, because if you weren't and you were feeling amazing, you're feeling great, but you saw the bad blood works, do you think that could have affected your decision in changing your dosage?
Yeah, I'm definitely glad it's happened. If it hadn't have happened, I probably would have done the same amount, if not more. I probably would have felt the same. It would have taken years off my life as well. So I'm definitely glad it has happened. But it's one of those things, like, if my goals hadn't changed alongside that, I probably still would have done it. I know lots of people. If you would have asked me 2-3 years ago that I could take a pill and it could make me Mr. Olympia, but then I'd die 5 years after, I would have said, give me that pill. Whereas now everything has changed. I'd go, there's no way I'm taking that pill. The way I look at it now is, I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm better than I was last week. And that is all that really matters. You know, if I can take smaller dosages, make myself last longer, then I'm fine with that.
Where would you advise someone to go if they were wanting to start taking anabolics and had come to that point of like, yeah, I want to start, and they've actually built a reasonable foundation as to why they want to?
So first of all, don't go to the person selling you anabolics. That's not a good idea. They just want to make money. I would advise going to someone that either does low dosages, gets blood work done, or someone that has changed their mind before, someone like myself, where they've done higher dosages and gone, you know what, don't need to do that. In regards to like member sites and things like that, the Physique Collective is very good, trained by JP. Although he used to do a lot of steroids, is another one of those people that has come down and done a lot less and preaches it. People like Josh and all those kind of coaches, the pro coach team. Like just listen to someone that is either doing and saying what they're telling you to do in regards to low dosages, or someone that has been smart enough and honest enough to say, look, more isn't always more. But yeah, it is really hard because, you know, like I say, if someone's bigger than you, you're probably going to listen to them, and unfortunately that's just the world we live in.
And come back to yourself now, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Still coaching for sure. I'd like to think that I have some kind of other avenue of revenue, because coaching can stop off at any time. You know, that insecurity is always going to be there. So I'd like to have some kind of revenue, whether that was, you know, real estate or something like that. But still coaching, capped with my clients. I'm someone that doesn't want to have 80, 100 plus clients. I want to be able to have, you know, 50, 60, but give a really good service to someone. So still coaching, probably with a kid. The kid would be good. Moving out, because I live at home at the minute, which is why I've got all the knitting stuff. It's not all mine. It's my mum's. But yeah, moving out, and that hopefully happens soon. And then just feeling happy. You know, like I say, if you can't love yourself, then why do you expect anyone else to? So I just want to be content, still pushing on to do more, but still living the dream like I am now.
Thanks so much to Ethan Harris for joining me on this episode of Ash Edwards podcast. It was really good, really interesting. Enjoyed the chat about anabolics. You can find Ethan on Instagram. It is ethan.harris with both the A's as an X. I'm really grateful for everyone that's come on the podcast so far. I only want to grow this further. I'm really enjoying doing it. So yeah, please share as much as you can. I want to grow this thing. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, so we're on Spotify, wherever you are. Check out all the other platforms, because I'm trying to make a lot of content out of these episodes, and it'd be great to have your support. This has been the Ash Edwards podcast. Thanks for listening.